Hi, welcome to Fix That Format. I'm Pamela. I teach the computer classes at the Arlington Heights Job Center. Some of you may have been in class with me. Since we can't meet face-to-face, I've put together a video series focused on fixing some of the common resume layout problems in Microsoft Word. This particular series of short videos is about working with tabs in Microsoft Word. Tabs are an important part of creating an applicant tracking system ready resume, so it's worth learning more about using tabs efficiently. There are 3 videos in this series. In this first video, we'll talk about what tabs are and the default tab settings in Microsoft Word. In the second video, we'll look at some techniques for managing your tab space in Microsoft Word. And in the third video, we'll take a look at tabbed paragraphs versus tables. In this first video, we'll talk about what tab space is, how to identify tab space in a document, and we'll work with the default tab settings in Microsoft Word. So what exactly does the tab key do? Let's take a look. Tab is short for tabulate because it helped fix a problem that goes back to when the typewriter was cutting-edge technology. The typewriter did a fine job typing regular horizontal lines like this, but there wasn't an easy way to create nice, neat columns of numbers. Eventually, they solved this problem by adding the tab key, tabulate, and when the tab key was pressed, it advanced the carriage until it hit a stopping point that was called a tab stop. This also became a handy way to indent a paragraph faster than hitting the space bar to add individual spaces. Fast forward to today, and the typewriter is a thing of the past, but it's still a problem to get the look of aligned columns in a text document. However, the tab key is no longer the only option. In fact, it's oftentimes the worst option because Word provides us with better choices. There's an indent feature built into Word that is much more efficient than tabbing, and we usually use tables instead of tabs for columns. But there are certain times when tabs are still the only option, like on resumes that need to go through the applicant tracking system. So we want to learn to recognize tab space when we see it. So here I have a paragraph with some odd spacing in it. It's impossible to tell just by staring at the text how the space got there. For example, is this an indent or is it a tab space? But fortunately, Word gives us some clues. If I look up at the ruler, I can see, in fact, that this is an indent. It's a first line indent. But this space over here or this space, I just don't know. It might be 5 individual spaces or it might be a tab. So here's where I turn on the invaluable Show Hide button, which is on the Home tab in the paragraph group. Switch there. Here's my Show Hide. And now I can see what I'm looking at. So for example, this is individual spaces. But whenever you see little arrows, that indicates that the tab was used, always. Now remember, these are non-printing characters. They wouldn't show even if you printed. It's just an easy way to tell what's going on with your document. Turn the Show Hide on, you can turn it off. Just go back and turn it off. You might think I'm getting pretty picky over a little space, and that would be true if we only worked on a document one time. But since we're always needing to make changes to documents, we want to set it up correctly from the beginning so it isn't a total nightmare when we edit a document. So let's insert some tabs. To insert tabs using the default, I'm just making sure that my cursor is here on the left margin. I've taken out the indent so I don't have to worry about that. And when I hit the tab key, you can see that the cursor jumps. And if I double check this with the ruler up here, I can see that it's gone a ½ inch. If I hit tab again, it goes another ½ inch. So when we create columns, one of the ways to do it is to, tab over to your starting point, type in what you want, keep tabbing, right, till you get to the second thing that you want. Then you keep tabbing till it comes back around, and you keep going. Now, this works great until you have to change something. So if I put my cursor back here and I start to add additional text, you can see that it starts to shift. We've probably all experienced this, and it's very frustrating. So what happened here? I'm going to turn on the show hide so we can see it a little bit better. So I'm going up to the Home tab in the paragraph group. And what you see here then is that, of course, every time you hit the tab key, you leave a mark, you get that arrow, that means tab keys. So if you're going to work with the defaults, which is not the best way to do it, you're going to have to be prepared to take out some of that tab space. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to use the backspace key. But as you can see, I might have to do this a few times to actually get it back to where I want. And then that might not even work. I might have to come back down and add tab. As you can see, very frustrating. So we really don't want to do it this way. We want to be able to set the tabs. And in the next video, I'll show you how to do that. Now, about indenting with the tab key, stop doing it. You want to use Word's indentation feature to apply indents. It works much better. But you may have run into a situation where you use the tab key and you do get a first line indent. That's true. That can be a shortcut. But you have to be very careful because sometimes it doesn't do it. Sometimes it just puts in a tab space. So if I put my cursor here at the beginning of the paragraph and I hit the tab key, I can see that yes, indeed, it did give me a first line indent. But I'm also going to see a little button here. And this comes from what's called autocorrect. And what it's asking me is, do I want to leave that as a first line indent? Did I mean to make it a first line indent? Or do I want it to make it a tab space? So yes, that is a shortcut, but you just have to be really careful with it, and it doesn't work with any kind of other indentation, just the first line indent. So just be careful about that. So to round up, the default tabs are set for every ½ inch. Turn on the show hide to make it easier to tell tab spacing from indentation. Remember, arrows indicate tabs. Any tab space you add, you'll have to delete if you no longer want it. Thanks for watching. In the next video of this series, we'll talk about customizing the tab settings in Microsoft Word. And then in the third video, we'll look at some of the differences between tabs and tables. Thanks again. See you soon.